Hey, Bcista here, and welcome to week 4 of the WDC. This week we're against the Merseyside Marowaks. This week is fairly big for me because currently I am 3 and 0, and if I'm able to get my fourth win of the season, I am actually able to clinch playoffs, which would be really exciting. It would be pretty much the quickest I've ever clinched playoffs. Um, and in addition to that, it gives me a very good chance to be able to possibly become the regular season champion, which is something I've yet to do in any draft league, despite having won a couple of draft leagues. But with that, let's get into the matchup. So here's my opponent's team on the right and my team on the left. My opponent team has some very concerning things. So first, you can see just on the speed tier, they have a couple Pokemon in Frostlass and Scyther that outspeed my entire team. In addition, they have a reasonable Trick Room mode with Camerupt, Ursaring, and then Oranguru to be able to set up Trick Room or undo Trick Room. In addition, they have Murkrow with Prankster Tailwind, which I have no means to prevent Prankster Tailwind, and that is able to basically make their entire speed team outspeed me on the fast end. And then on top of that, they have a couple of very concerning offensive Pokemon, and like Crocodile, Rotom Wash, and Goldango, who threaten a large percentage of my Pokemon. And so with that, here is the team I decided to bring. So we start off with Terra Fire Skeletors with choice specs and Unaware. So the idea about Unaware is I wanted to be able to play around specifically a Anger Point Crocodile, because there's a good chance that they bring a Anger Point Crocodile by activating its own weakness with Frostlass, and Oblivious is or Unaware is a way to ignore it. And we got the specs just to do massive damage. This Pokemon Heat Wave should one-shot Goldingo. It should one-shot Scyther. The Overheat should one-shot Crocodile, even if it's an Assault Vest. And then Shadow Ball should basically hit anything that resists it very well. Next up, we have the Rapska. The Rapska helps set up Trick Room. It's incredibly bulky. We got Revival Blessing to revive fainted Pokemon. We have Bug Buzz just as a stab coverage, and then Shadow Ball to hit the Pokemon that resist bug, namely like Goldango is the big one. In addition, we have Terra Steel in order to play around just flying coverage, rock coverage that hit Rapska for good damage, and then we have Telepathy, which is a big deal when paired next to Bellybolt, which is Bellybolt is a big strategy this week. The idea of Bellybolt is we have some moves that hit all Pokemon, including my own Pokemon, which is Discharge and Parabolic Charge. So Rapska's Telepathy prevents me from hitting it with that Discharge or that Parabolic Charge. But in addition to doing spread moves like that, we also have weakness policy, in which we hope to activate our own weakness policy with Farafrig. So we have room service on Farafrig to lower its speed to allow Bellybolt, or to underspeed Bellybolt and Trick Room. And we can activate its weakness policy by clicking Bulldoze. And not only does it activate its weakness policy, increasing Bellybolt's special attack by 2 stages, it also activates its Electromorphosis, which means that if I click an electric move, it doubles the damage on top of that, which means it does 4 times the amount of damage it would than normal. So that's definitely a big strategy, and I think it's a good way to just do massive damage and kind of hard for my opponent to play around unless they have a way to be immune to electric, which is namely a ground Pokemon, which is why we have Muddy Water and Terra Water in order to do good damage into ground Pokemon, and also to not take super effective damage into the ground moves after we get our weakness policy. For Farafrig, other than Trick Room and Bulldoze, we have Hyper Voice just as good damage. It pretty much hits everything except Goldingo, in which Bulldoze hits. And then we have Protect, which I think is actually a pretty good thing to kind of mess with my opponent and threaten them early with a Trick Room, Protect, and then be able to punish them with an offensive mon like Skeledirge or Bellybolt. And then we have Armor Tail and to prevent Prankster taunts and other Prankster moves from the Murkrow, and then Steel coverage just to be able to take dark moves and other moves like that. Next up, we have Dondozo with the Assault Vest. With the Assault Vest, it takes moves from Goldango really well and then threatens it in return. We have Oblivious specifically because I don't want to be intimidated by Crocodile. and we have Terra Grass in order to take the Thunderbolts from Rotom and also have Terra Grass in order to punish and deal good damage into Rotom Wash. In addition to that, we have just Wave Crash, which is just good stab damage, Zen Headbutt, which is our psychic move, and then Rock Slide, which just is a good way to get some spread damage. Finally, we have Bombardier with Rocky Payload, with Stone Edge. With Rocky Payload, Stone Edge, we one-shot pretty much any Murkrow and pretty much any Scyther. Other than that, we have Dark Coverage and Knockoff and Sucker Punch, which Dark Coverage is honestly pretty good against them. And Sucker Punch lets me be good in and out of Trick Room by being able to move first, and then Dual Wing Beat specifically to hit Pokemon for like neutral damage, like Crocodile, and also to just hit Pokemon like grass Pokemon. And we're in addition to that, we're Terra Dark. Terra Dark helps Sucker Punch one-hit KO non-bulky Goldingos and most Frostlasses. And then finally, we have the Focus Sash to be able to guarantee at least take one hit. So with that, that is our team, and let's get into the matches. Here we are for game one. So look at my opponent's team. We see that they have the Frostlass Crocodile, which makes me believe that there's a good chance they might just leave the Anger Point strategy with Frostlass, activating the Anger Point by doing Frost Breath into it. And in addition to that, there's, I kind of want to be able to play around something like a Goldango lead. And so the combination of Bombardier and Skeledirge answers both of these because Skeledirge is unaware. So it ignores the stat boost from Crocodile and also is the best offensive Pokemon into Goldango. And if I Terrorize it, is able to, take pretty much any move from it. Since I've decided to not lead Trick Room, I probably am just going to do my 2 non-Trick Room setters in the back, because Trick Room in the late game is not as exciting, especially because both of my Trick Room setters aren't super offensive. In addition to that, I kind of want to see what type of Pokemon they have to taunt and possible leads, and definitely, like I said, expect and want to be able to play around that Anger Point lead. And so with that, let's get into the match. So my opponent leads Crocodile Frostlass, and I lead the Bombardier Skeledirge. As we can see, they do not reveal Intimidate, which means that they're almost certainly just going to Frost Breath and Anger Point. So with this, I decided to go for the Sucker Punch onto the Frostlass, hoping that I get a one-hit KO. I could theoretically Terra Dark to do it, however I decided I want to Terra Fire instead, and deciding between whether I want to go for an Overheat to try to get the one-hit KO onto the Crocodile, or just go for the Heat Wave, which is, the more, standard move, assuming I don't have a guaranteed way to kill the Crocodile. The Overheat will kill Crocodile unless it terrorizes into a Fire Resist, and in addition, it's going to lower my special attack, kind of encouraging me to switch, so I decided to just go for the safer Heat Wave, which also will kill Frostlass if I end up not killing it with the Sucker Punch. So I ended up Terra Watering the Crocodile, which definitely makes my Heat Wave and Terra Fire a little bit awkward. However, despite that, I still think I'm in okay shape because my Crocodile is EV to survive any attack from, my Skeledirge is EV to survive any attack from the Crocodile. And so here we get the Sucker Punch, which just misses out on the Frostlass, and looks like there's a good chance it would have killed another Terra Dark. And they do in fact activate my Anger Point, which ends up not being that relevant as of now because my Skeledirge is in fact unaware and is ignoring the stat boost. And with the Earthquake, they're able to kill their own Frostlass and ends up doing about 75-ish% to my Skeledirge. And I'm able to get a single target Heat Wave. And so despite it being resisted, it should still do a pretty good chunk of damage. And we see it does about 50% into the Crocodile, which is pretty impressive, given that Crocodile is resisting that coverage. So they end up bringing out Goldango, and Goldango's not the worst here because I can Sucker Punch and kill Crocodile from this range, and I can just go for a Heat Wave, which kill Goldango. So Goldango is going to be required to target my Skeledirge, or I'm gonna kill it, and then the Sucker Punch is gonna kill Crocodile unless they protect or switch. So then they're protecting the Crocodile, which makes sense, playing around that Sucker Punch of mine. And so this can definitely be a bad turn because if they just kill my Crocodile, I end up doing nothing this turn. However, they went for Make a Rain instead of any other move, which lets my Skeledirge survive, which is huge as long as I can connect this Heat Wave. And I connect the Heat Wave, and this should be a clean one-hit KO into the Goldango, which is a huge deal. And then on top of being, the one-hit KO onto the Goldango, I now have not only a 4-0 lead, I have a Pokemon that threatens to kill both these Pokemon and Skeledirge, who they kind of have the deal, and Sucker Punch should kill Crocodile from this range. And so I just go for the Sucker Punch there and go for the Heat Wave. So the Skull Villain pretty much needs to kill my Skeledirge, and they need to go for the double protect, which they might do. It's definitely would be a smart move. But if for some reason they don't, I pretty much get a clean kill on Crocodile, and the Anger Point ends up not doing much. So they end up going for a non-damage move with Crocodile, so my Sucker Punch fails, and they just go for the Flamethrower onto my Skeledirge, killing my Skeledirge from this range. Definitely a little sad that Skeledirge dies, and also a little sad I went for Sucker Punch instead of like a knockoff, because knockoff basically single-handedly wins me the game from this point. However, they decided to just go for Taunt, which doesn't do anything other than preventing my Sucker Punch, which was annoying, but at this point I still feel like I'm in pretty good shape because I can bring out Dondozo, in which Dondozo basically can only be killed by an Earthquake or a Dark move into it with Crocodile. And if they do that, then I get a free attack off with the Bombardier. Whereas, basically, so basically we're kind of in the situation where they definitely they need to, they can't kill both of my Pokemon. Here we also reveal that I end up forgetting to put in Zen Headbutt onto my Dondozo. It's not too relevant here because I'm just going to go for Terra Blast. That would be the best move in general because it's 100% accurate. But definitely a little awkward for later games. So I ended up going for Worry Seed, which is a really smart move. So this is a way to get rid of my Unaware Mons, which ignore the boosts. However, we actually see one big thing, is that I actually have to be a Crocodile with a Bombardier, which means that all those Sucker Punches were completely unnecessary because I just outsped, which is definitely annoying. However, in the Power Trip here at +6 is a clean kill, and it would have been a kill even if I was unaware, despite the fact that I'm actually oblivious. However, now we just bring in Belly Bolt, and we have a clean guaranteed win here. Even if for some reason we sped tied last time, they have no way to kill both my Pokemon, and both of my Pokemon threaten to kill it. In addition to that, Bombardier is almost certainly faster, and I can just go for 100% accurate knockoff, which is guaranteed to kill it, even if they go for some strange, non-damaging move. So they end up just going for Protect to get a little bit of extra information. Technically, if Belly Bolt's only damaging move was Discharge, I could possibly have lost the game there. However, this also just gives them a little extra thinking time. But now, like I said, just go for the 200% accurate moves, and this is a guaranteed win from this point. And with this, Bombardier ends up outspeeding and killing it with the knockout. So the fact that Bombardier is faster is massive knowledge for game 2. In addition, we also get to see Bombardier knocks off Window Berry of the Crocodile, showing that Window Berry is its item. So definitely some really good information, but with that we can get to game 2. Here we are for game 2. So based on the fact that Bombardier outspeeds Crocodile and how the Anger Point strategy didn't really work, I'm expecting them not to lead Anger Point. So with that, I'm expecting possibly something like Murkrow Goldango lead, maybe like Goldango Rotom Heat lead, or Rotom Wash lead. So with this, I decided to go with Bombardier just to be safe, and I want to do a Trick Room setter. I decided to go with Rabsca. Honestly, the only reason I really decided Rabsca over Farafrig is because I've yet to use Rabsca this entire season. I'm just like, Rabsca seems fun. Honestly, probably Farafrig was the correct answer, but with that, we also just decided Skeledirge and Belly Bolt in the back, just because they're just more bulky, good damage, and Dondozo doesn't seem particularly that exciting, especially since Crocodile is Terra Water, and Rotom is pretty bulky. And so with that, let's get into the match. Opponent leads Rotom and Murkrow, and I lead my Rabsca and Bombardier. So here I decided to just go for the Stone Edge and Murkrow. This should kill pretty much any Murkrow, even if it's Eviolite. And I'm debating on whether or not I should switch out or protect or Trick Room. Trick Room is the optimal play, assuming they don't have Taunt on Murkrow. However, if they have Taunt on Murkrow, then I can completely waste my turn. However, I decided I'm just going to go for Trick Room because there's a chance they just might not have Taunt because of the Farafari preventing Prankster. And they do, in fact, not have Taunt here. However, the Stone Edge ends up missing, which is really sad because with that, they're able to get a clean double up into my Rapska, and which, luckily for me, the double up does not kill, and I'm able to get Trick Room up pretty safely. So here I'm expecting one of the two Pokemon to go for the kill on Rapska, and so I decided it's a pretty clean knockoff into the Rotom and switch into Bellibolt because I'm expecting a Foul Play, Air Slash, or Thunderbolt into that spot, in which Bellibolt should take all those very well and get the Electromorphosis boost. And since they're not going to double up into the Bombardier, the knockoff should be the best damage and also knock off the item onto the Rotom. So we switch out the Rapska into the Bellibolt. And they end up going for the Foul Play and Bombardier, which definitely stressed me because that means I thought that they might have gone for the double up into the Bombardier. However, they just go for a Light Screen, which is a little bit annoying. But luckily for me, the Bombardier does in fact survive, and I'm able to knock off the Magnet and do, about 60% of the Rotom. So here, I definitely just want to go for a Discharge with the Bellibolt. And so the idea is whether or not I just want to sacrifice the Bombardier or switch out into the Rapska. And I decided I just want to sacrifice the Bombardier and get a free switch in rather than risking a switch in to the Skeledirge or switching into the Rapska. And then go for the Discharge to scoop good damage into both these Pokemon since it hits Run for neutral and Murkrow for super effective. And however, they end up switching out the Murkrow into the Frostlass, meaning that I'm not going to do nearly as much damage with the Discharge. In addition, they protect the Rotom, making this turn honestly not particularly good because not only does Rotom not take a Sucker Punch and Murkrow not take a Discharge, I also am going to kill my own Pokemon with this Discharge. Definitely making it a little bit awkward, especially given the fact that Discharge did not do a huge chunk of damage into that Frostlass switch in. However, I did get the free switch in that I wanted, and with the free switch in, I'm able to either bring out Rapska and maybe revive the Bombardier, or just do a little bit of damage with like Shadow Ball into the Frostlass, or alternatively, I can just get extreme amount of damage with Choice Spec Skeledirge. And so I decided to go with the Choice Spec Skeledirge, especially since this should be able to get a pretty clean kill on both these Pokemon if they don't switch out. And we just go for the Terra Fire to make sure we get the extra damage because they do have Light Screen up. And we go for the Thunderbolt into the Rotom just in case the Heat Wave doesn't kill because it is resisted and Light Screen is up. So we Terra Fire the Skeledirge. Bellibolt, however, is faster and gets Thunderbolt into Rotom. And from this range, Heat Wave looks like it should double KO if I connect. Luckily for me, I get the double connect and get the double KO with the Skeledirge. And with this position, I feel very good about my spot because we have an additional turn of Trick Room, and we have the Pokemon lead now. In addition, both of these Pokemon are really high HP, and Murkrow is one of their two Pokemon, which is very underwhelming offensively. And so they end up bringing out Goldingo, which is honestly pretty exciting for me, especially since Goldingos sometimes are, somewhat regularly don't bring Protect. So if this doesn't have Protect, this game is almost certainly over because I can just Heat Wave and Thunderbolt and get a pretty clean kill on the Goldingo. However, I do consider playing around the Protect on Goldingo and just go for the Thunderbolt and the Murkrow. Thunderbolt and the Murkrow would just kill the Murkrow and basically end up bringing this down to a 3v1, in which Skeledirge and which Goldingo doesn't really have any super effective ways to deal with the Bellibolt specifically. However, I just decided to go for the double up into the Goldingo because Goldingo is the offensive threat where Murkrow, like I said, is not that big of a deal if it survives because there's not much it can do other than just click Foul Plays. They end up protecting the Goldingo, which definitely makes my decision to Thunderbolt it a little bit less optimal. However, they just go for a Tailwind, which ends up pretty much being useless given the fact that Goldingo outspeeds my entire team without the Tailwind. So definitely not bad for me. And with this, though, we are able to get a clean Heat Wave off into the Murkrow, and we're able to do a little bit over 50%, which means that the next Heat Wave should kill, especially with the burn and the extra burn damage. However, with this, we also see it as the last turn of Trick Room, which means now they are going to outspeed me. However, because I'm choiced in, there's not much I can do except click Heat Wave. Heat Wave should kill Murkrow from this range and kill Goldingo unless they terrorize it. And in addition, we're going to Thunderbolt to Goldingo, in which this double up has a very good chance to kill unless they have something that resists fire and possibly has to resist both fire and electric to survive, depending on how bulky this Goldingo is specifically. Sadly for me, they end up Terra Dragoning, which both resist fire and electric. Definitely makes my move a little bit less optimal. However, the best damage they have into me is just Air Slash and Hex, which both my Pokemon take very well. The Hex even activates my Electromorphosis, doubling my damage from my Goldingo this turn. And we also get the Heat Wave killing off the Murkrow, which is really big. The double damage, Thunderbolt ends up doing pretty good damage. Now Goldingo goes a little bit below half and gets the paralysis, which is really big. However, they get the Thunderbolt, which means they have a possible chance to be able to survive the double up next turn. However, with Light Screen wearing off right here, I think that the double up should kill as long as I collect my moves. Definitely will kill if I get the Electromorphosis boost. However, I don't expect it to get boosted since I think they're going to try to kill Skeletors with crit here. So they decided to just go make it rain, which I think is probably not the correct play from my perspective, because even with a crit, it doesn't kill either of these Pokemon. And in addition to that, it gives me Electromorphosis boost. So with this, I definitely think they kind of just, clicked the rain button because they thought the game was over, which pretty much it was. But with the Light Screen drop, the Heat Wave does massive damage, and the Thunderbolt is able to finish it off. And with that, we're able to win 2-0 and get the 4th win of the season, locking our spots off in the playoffs, which is really exciting. I think this is a really fun set. I really think that the Anger Point strategy was pretty good on AJ's side. In addition, I think it's a fairly tough matchup for them, but I'm definitely really happy how Skeledirge and Bombardier in particular did, and I think definitely showed their strengths, and specifically Skeledirge, I think getting 7 kills or something like that. I think maybe 6. But definitely a good match. I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.